Hey everybody, how you doing? This is the Stuff I Heard podcast, and I'm your host Joshua Peak, and I happen to be here with my brother today. Hi, Alex.
Hello, Joshua.
So it's been a while.
Yeah, I feel like I haven't, like I used to do a couple of different podcasts and then I would get on with you fairly regularly. And I don't think I've podcasted with anybody in
Well, while
probably like
most
6 months.
while most of the world was locked down with COVID, you were like, "Okay, I'll do all of the things you need me to do, whatever you guys need."
Yeah. Yeah.
So tracking you
Yeah.
down has been hard, and I was, happy that I was able to do a podcast with your wife recently. That was a lot of fun. Um,
Yeah. I listened to it the other day. It was great. She said she had a blast.
yeah, looking forward to do another one hopefully this coming Friday. And I think she and I have to figure out what we're going to do for that. But anyway, um, I miss your face, and we need to hang out sometime, like in person.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. Now that things are starting to open back up and everybody's comfortable again, I think we definitely need to get together.
yeah, even our mom's
So,
comfortable. She's like hugging me
yeah.
now.
Yeah. I know. She like came and stayed at our house for like 10 days, almost
Yep,
2 weeks. It was fantastic.
yep. So that's good. Um, I kind of wanted to jump right into my first topic here, which is Loki.
Oh man.
So Loki's hit Disney Plus, and the first
Yes.
episode is out. It's titled "Glorious Purpose," which I think is very appropriate, seeing as
Yeah. I mean, it's
how
very, very Loki kind of title.
well he has an opening line where once he taps the Tesseract back in 2012 and gets shot into Mongolia, he realizes once people start coming around, oh, I got to do my thing. So he jumps up on top of a rock and says, "My name is Loki, and I'm burdened with glorious purpose."
Yeah.
And suddenly his
Yeah.
purpose that he thinks is his purpose is no longer important.
It was so funny because like when it was almost like in that scene, he kind of disappears and it was like he didn't know where he would end up. So there was a part of me that wondered in that beginning scene, like, we know because of the caption at the bottom that he's in Mongolia, but does he know or does he just think that he's landed on another planet with people that look like Mongolians? And he's like, aha, I have come to save you.
And I'm so thankful that he speaks English, because otherwise
I
I wouldn't
know.
know what he was saying.
I know.
But
Yeah. I mean, I
immediately
guess if there
he's
were to be somebody I guess if there were to be somebody to take over, it would be nice to understand what they're saying.
yeah, I mean, if it was subtitles the whole time, I'd be like, ah, crap, because I got closed
Yeah.
caption on. So
Yeah.
sometimes the closed caption is like over the top of them doing other words, and I have to kind of guess at what the words are. But
Oh, right.
I'm doing the closed caption on a lot of this stuff because I don't want to miss anybody's name. And so
Right.
sometimes they'll have someone's name like when they speak because you have multiple dialogues, and it'll have their names with a colon, and then it'll say what they're saying next to it. And I'm like,
Right.
that's that guy. I've
Oh,
seen that
that's
name.
yes, I
Yeah.
do know that name.
Because sometimes
Yes.
they won't even say a name in a show. They'll just keep on with the dialogue, and you're like, well, who's that person? But if you have your closed caption on, little inside tip, guys, you can see who the people are, and sometimes it helps you follow along with the storyline. So
Yes.
I think I'm going to go back and watch Dark that way, just so I can try to
Yeah.
keep up better.
Yeah, and like I do love a bunch of those shows that are on Netflix like Dark and Rain and Ragnarok. And and it does help to have those subtitles because especially like because I get in a bad habit of like watching, lips move.
Yeah,
And I found like, after the pandemic was a thing, I never realized how much I relied on watching someone's mouth move when they speak
yeah.
to comprehend what they're saying. And so now when I first started watching like Ragnarok, which is a great show, um, it's dubbed, and so watching his lips move, I'm like trying to listen, but trying to read and watch. I'm like, ah.
Yeah,
So yeah, the closed captioning definitely helps.
yeah. So Loki, right away he's in Mongolia, and a little funky door opens up, and out step some troops, and you go, "Hey, what's going on here?" And right away they're telling him, "We got the guy. Put your hands up," kind of thing. He's like, "Wait, I'm a god," and they're like, "Okay."
Yeah, sure thing, guy. Sure thing, bud.
Whatever, buddy.
Yeah.
So immediately he's taken into custody, and I love the adaptation of the collar around his neck when she smacks him in the mouth, and she's like, "All right, so you're in 1/16th time now, and you're feeling all of this."
Yeah, and I love that he's the only one moving in 1/16, and she's just
His mouth is like,
yeah, I did like that a lot.
But then he
It's
immediately gets into like a bureaucratic type situation where he's in processing, and he's like, "Wait, but I'm a god," and they're like, "Okay, yeah, next."
yeah. For being the god of mischief, he really, he gets the real bad brunt of a lot of these like silly things that just really humiliate him. I mean,
Yeah.
the whole like, you know, mouth moving in slow motion and, orange jumpsuit. And I did love the 1970s DMV vibe that the TVA gives off when they get there. It's very like,
Yeah.
bland walls and dim lighting,
With the additive of the funky wand that they can touch you with and erase you. Like that was
Right.
pretty
Oh Lord, that
that was
was
pretty
terrifying.
terrifying. I was like, "Whoa."
Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was very like War of the Worlds type esque, like it's just one little touch and oop, you're gone
Well,
into
and
oblivion.
he's also in processing with another guy who's pretty verbal, who you hear him say something about being involved with Goldman Sachs, and you're like, "Oh, he's figured out some way to travel in time to try and like increase his fortune, and they've caught
Right.
him, and now he thinks he's entitled to things, maybe a Gordon Gecko kind of guy." And they're like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, okay."
Yeah,
So
sure guy.
I particularly like
Buzz.
the like you said, the DMV type thing where he's in line and he's supposed to take a ticket, and he's like, "I'm not taking no stupid ticket." And then he gets up front and
Mm-hmm.
they're like, "Where's your ticket?" He's like, "The guy didn't even give me one." And they're like, "I've had enough of this." And he just touches him with that
Okay.
wand, and then poof, he's gone.
Yeah.
They look at Loki like, "Ticket?" He goes, I gotta find it." Like, holy crap.
This thing has pockets, right? There's pockets.
I put it somewhere, didn't I? Oh, where did I put the thing? Yeah. So I love that. Like, you get, again, he's supposed to be this god of mischief or whatever, but he's always put in a very humanized role where he's sort of getting the blunt of abuse. And I love sitting down with Mobius, played by Owen Wilson, who is just like, yeah, I'm a big fan, whatever. I mean, you say you're the god of mischief, but look, you don't actually create any real mischief. You kind of just have a way of bringing people together. And he keeps
Yeah.
scene after scene of
You're,
where the Avengers are becoming better because of the fact that Loki was involved.
like you're really good at losing.
Yeah. and,
Yeah.
and the whole time Loki's thinking, the second I get a chance, I'm getting out of here. And he does try. I mean, he gets a hold of that little time caller device thing where they keep rewinding him, and he's like, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
And he figures out a way to get out, and then runs into a secretary, just some guy, Eugene, who's just happened to be pushing a cart. And he opens up the cart and he sees like the Tesseract and a lot of Infinity Stones, not just
Like a
5,
lot, like a
like
lot.
like
Yeah.
a lot. And he's like, "You've got an Infinity Stone?" He goes, "Oh yeah, we got so many of these things, man. We get some people using paperweights." And he was like,
Yeah.
"What?" Like the whole thing is like in his world, the Infinity Stones were supposed to be the most powerful thing ever, and most people couldn't touch one, let alone two, which he has done. And here they are in a drawer because this guy who's just an office worker is like, "Yeah, it's no big deal. We got a bunch of that crap."
Yeah.
I think it suddenly hits him. Oh, like this is real, and I have zero power.
Right. And it's like, because everything, so for us, everything comic book wise has been centered around the control of, what Asgardians would call Midgar,
Yeah.
what Earth. And everything is centered around that because our whole storyline has been around the Avengers. But, there are so many other superpowers in the galaxy and in the universe that, we haven't even seen. And until now, like we see the Timekeepers. And I know, coming up with Marvel, they're going to do the Eternals and Shang-Chi and all that stuff. But as of right now, like you said, for Loki, everything is centered around the control of Earth.
Yeah.
And the Tesseract was like his way to do that. So, now that he sees it like, oh, well, these Infinity Stones don't really matter to anyone else but, the people that are trying to get to Earth, like, wow, maybe I'm not really that important. And it's like this moment of realization. It's like the show is very comical leading up to that point, and then it's like this heavy weight sets in, like, oh man, maybe I'm not that great. I'm not awesome. I'm not who I thought I was.
And I love
what
the
is
guys,
my glorious purpose now?
I love Mobius's, sort of audio visual department thing where he's got a replay of Loki's life from different directions, and he's like, "This is the timeline you're supposed to be on," and he figures out a way to get back there to kind of see his own timeline. and he sees eventually his accidental cause of his adoptive mother's death, Frigga's death. And he realizes, oh, this is kind of my fault. And then he's curious about his own demise. So he fast forwards a bit to see Thanos crush his neck in battle. And he's like, and then the tape runs out and he's like, that's it. That I don't achieve any glory. I don't achieve this thing that I thought I would do. Because it's sort of like he's already, from the moment he sees that those Infinity Stones are just paperweights, he then accepts his fate as being in this position and then goes, okay, so say this is real. Let me go back to the room. Let me finish the movie. I want to see how this ends. Do I achieve anything if I go back? What happens? And ultimately, he kind of realizes I'm sort of the butt of the joke, and I actually caused my mom's death, and I eventually get squished by Thanos. Which, in his mind, he's thinking Thanos is somebody that could be overtaken because of his all-encompassing power and the fact that he can touch Infinity Stones. And yet, you got Thanos who can hold all five in a gauntlet, and he just gets his neck crushed, and that's it. And he's like,
yep.
So suddenly the idea of from the beginning of the show where he says, I am Loki and I'm burdened with glorious purpose. Okay, so what's your purpose? Like it sort of wraps it all into a tiny little nutshell, much like the Infinity Stones, much like he thinks his purpose is. And he's like, well, crap, what is my purpose? So here's Mobius, who tells him he's a fan. And obviously he knows about him because he's been watching him. And he, Mobius asked him, he said, do you enjoy hurting people? And he went on this tirade of telling him, I had to do it because of this, and I had to do it because of that, and this was my goal, blah, 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 until the final part of it where he's like, I don't actually enjoy hurting people. No. And he tells him, he's like, listen, we're after a variant that's extremely powerful and causing all sorts of mischief in different timelines, and the whole timeline multiverse is at stake here. And he finally tells him the person we're after is you. And so it sort of hints back at his idea of purpose. What is that grand purpose? What is that thing? Is there a variant of him where we talk about the multiverse and the fact that there could be a version of him where he does achieve some sort of level of mischief that's godlike, and because he is somehow self-actualized into understanding what the TVA is, now he's like, maybe this is my purpose. Like it sort of opens his mind up to go, is my bigger purpose this? Not the achieving goddom and ruling over people. Maybe this is my purpose. So I think this is sort of a great launching point, and it sort of sets the viewer up for all sorts of things that's going to happen with the multiverse, because we know from being fans of Marvel that they're gearing up for a lot of multiverse events, being number one, Doctor Strange, the multiverse of madness.
Right.
And with that, I mean, we know that Wanda is going to be part of this. We know that it's going to somehow dive into Spider-Man, because the No Way Home is going to have all three Spider-Mans that have played Spider-Man before, which could have a real life rendition of the animated show Into the Multiverse.
Yeah, which was fantastic.
Which was great. Yep. If anybody hasn't seen the animated movie, the Spider-Man Into the Multiverse, go watch it. Miles Morales is another Spider-Man. There's a lot of Spider-Mans that happen to exist in different dimensions. And at the time, the animated way was pretty much the only way to get people to see what it was going to be. And I think this is going to be a live action version of that. And we might actually see a live action Miles Morales once this is over with.
Which would be cool.
So
I want to go back to a couple of things, because there's so much to unpack from that Loki episode. And I've seen, as soon as these Marvel episodes get done, every time the show, or even Star Wars too, I always go on, what Easter eggs did I miss? What can I go back and rewatch, and then what kind of conspiracy theories are out there? So, one of the big ones that we've touched on is Owen Wilson's character talks about, we're chasing you. And when we're in that church scene, the little boy or girl points at the stained glass window that has a depiction of a devil, basically. And so, in Mobius's mind, there's a part of me that thinks we're chasing, by saying we're chasing you, are we chasing another, like you said, version of Loki, or are we chasing another god of mischief or god of evil that is doing things like Loki would do? So many people thought that we would finally meet Mephisto, which is Marvel's version of the devil
Yeah.
in Wanda, and we never got to see him. And so now they're like, well, will we finally get to see him in Loki? Like, is that who they're chasing?
Yeah.
Hinting at the stained glass window. So, and I'm sure it'll be one of those series, because Marvel's very good at this, where we'll chase this shadowy figure over 8 episodes, and then we'll finally get to the end, and like we might get a glimpse, and like, oh, who was that?
Yeah.
So that's one theory that's out there. The other big one that I can't remember if I sent this to you or not. I know I sent it to Michelle. Somebody has like picked apart all the different times throughout the movies where Loki, and this would be incredible if Marvel is thinking this far in advance, but all the different times where Loki has, I don't want to say cloned himself, but projected his image elsewhere. And every time that he does that, and it's not actually him, he's always got his blade in his left hand. Now, anytime that he has been himself, when he fights Thor or when he fights any of the Avengers, his blades that he manifests out of nowhere, they're in his right hand, implying that he's right-handed, and that his other version of himself that he projects is left-handed, because it's supposed to be opposite. So people have gone back and like they've clipped these things together, and then they fast forward to the scene when he is killed by Thanos.
Mm-hmm.
In that scene, when he tries to kill Thanos, he tries to throw his knife into Thanos' throat with his left hand. So now people are starting to theorize, by him being in the TVA and seeing his own death, and now knowing, after all this is said and done through the TVA, does he get reintroduced to his timeline, get onto that ship with Thanos and Thor, knowing he's going to die, but now he's projected himself and just thrown that left hand, and that's not actually him dying.
Ooh.
And so maybe Loki is still out there. That would be, if Marvel is thinking that far in advance, that would just be unreal.
Right, because this show goes back, over 10 years that they've done movies.
Right. This show takes place in 2012.
Yeah.
So
they would have that sort of insight. That's incredible.
That would be incredible. But also the idea that, and this is why I love these fan theories and fan videos. The idea that some fan has gone through and like picked all that out and like pieced it together is just
yeah.
I mean, there are some very bright-minded people. But so anyway, so that would be incredible. Like the idea that it would make it very fun too. Like, oh yeah, Loki's not actually dead. He's still out there somewhere in the universe. Just kind of waiting to see how the whole Infinity Stone gauntlet thing played out. But
okay, so that's one theory. I have a theory, and this may not be popular, but I have a theory that because the TVA is involved and because he has now taken a variant and has come off his own timeline, that what we're experiencing now with Mobius chasing down this Loki supposed variant, or maybe Morbius, what if, obviously time has no bearing. Their place in time has no bearing. So what if what he's actually chasing is himself from the future because he's gotten fed up with the TVA and he's decided to lash out?
It could be, yeah.
So all of what's happening, so actually all of what's happening right now is supposed to happen for this other reason.
Right.
Because it's supposed to unlock something else. Maybe the TVA itself is questioning its own abilities and its own authority, and it's thrown this little monkey wrench into things and said, if we invite Loki into this could actually propel the thing that we need to happen, in which case you get Doctor Strange and everybody else fighting against this multiverse of madness. And there's a lot of people hinting to this, multi-dimensional war, which they even mention in the little cartoon short that he's watching is like an old, cartoon video while he's waiting in line at these supposed
which I love that,
eternal DMV type of thing. If it wasn't for the Time Lords, then it's blah 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 blah. You're like, wait, what? And there was a multitude of madness in this multiverse, and they decided there was going to be one. I love the little fact that she's got a southern accent.
I know, like she's like, it's like gonna make you calm,
Yeah.
to hear it from like grandma.
Yeah, this ever impending thing that's larger than all of us, and then suddenly you're like, wait, I'm supposed to what? Like they're simpling it down into a cartoon. Yeah, I like the fact that there's like thunder and it says thunderclap on the screen. You're like,
yeah.
What? What's happening?
It's like but it just goes with the flow of that 70s DMV. Yeah. I mean, it's got a very Jetsons feel to the whole cartoon.
But like you said,
very
there could be a possibility that Wanda unlocking her powers has then activated Mobius to come into the scene, which could be
yeah
the reason that the variance is even there to start with. So there's a lot of directions they could take this, and I love the fluidity of the fact that Loki could be anybody at any time. Like once he leaves the TVA's realm, then he repossesses
yeah
his own abilities to shapeshift, to take on the appearance of other people, to project himself in other places, which does make it a lot more
yeah
fun to watch because there's a lot of directions he can go. And even before this show started, there were like previews where it looks like they have put more technology and more I don't know exactly the right word to say it, more imagination into all of the crazy areas this could go in just this TV show. Like this looks even bigger
right
than Avengers Endgame as far as the depth
yeah
and perception of the grandness of it all, which it should be. I mean, if you're going to tackle something so complex as this, your average watcher is going to be like, I don't get it. Whereas we're like, ah!
yeah people that have been invested since 2008 from the
Yeah.
first Iron Man to now. I mean, we're like hanging on every edge and every word, just waiting, counting down the days until Wednesday when it comes back out again.
And the crazy part
um
is Kevin Feige and John Favreau have been a part of this since the beginning. I mean, obviously John was the first
right
one to kick it off with Iron Man, but then at a certain point, Kevin Feige took over and went, "Hey, let's really flex the muscles of what this could be."
right
And I
let's
remember
turn
back,
this into something.
yeah, I remember back when Guardians of the Galaxy came out, and I remember talking to you and going, "I don't know, it's got a stupid raccoon in it. Am I going to watch that?" And you were like, "Listen, it's really good." And I was like, all right, I guess I'll watch it. I mean, I sort of was reticent to watch it, and then I was like, that was way better than I thought it was going to be. And then you
yeah
sort of
yeah
realize then, oh crap, I got to watch all of these because they all tie in
yeah
together.
yeah exactly
Yeah.
exactly. In fact, I have a buddy of mine, he's a little bit older. I think he's in his early 60s, but he's gotten to the point where he's semi retired and he wants to get in. He's like, I want to get in kind of the Marvel phase and da da da. I hear it's pretty good. How many movies am I behind on? I was like, 30
Yeah.
plus countless television shows. Like I
Yeah.
can't. you could sit for a summer and probably not get through all of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. If
and I
someone's
know
like,
you
where
and
do I
Michelle.
start? You're like, Iron Man 1.
Yeah, Iron Man
Good
1,
luck.
2008.
Maybe Captain America,
And
the first one.
you and Michelle touched on this in your episode, but I mean, I've said this from the beginning, but like Marvel has done such a great job of the building blocks,
Yeah.
and they have the recipe for success, and DC just was like, we're gonna try our own thing, and it was
Mm-hmm.
horrible. Like DC has just really missed out, and I think it's because a lot of it because Disney kind of came together and they were like, listen, we can put all of this Marvel stuff together, but we have got to agree that it's all together.
Yeah.
And they're still trying to fight for like Hulk and Spider-Man because Sony still has a good bit of that. But with DC, like nobody has the rights to just like the whole DC universe.
Mm-hmm.
It's like Chris Nolan's going to do this Batman. And then, Zack Snyder's going to do this Justice League. And then we got, these people over here doing Aquaman. And, they could not get it together. And they still haven't. I mean, they're still branching out. Now we got Robert Pattinson coming in as Batman. I mean, DC has just really dropped the ball top to bottom. I mean, this is not.
I mean, for years though, I think DC has felt they only had two ponies to ride, either Batman or Superman, and they've just rode those horses till they're dead. And it's like, okay, this has kind of been played out, and then they were like, oh, we got to catch on board with Marvel because they're passing us. But I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that Jon Favreau is extremely intelligent in the fact that he doesn't put anybody on screen who isn't important and going to come up later. No matter their part in it, he has a place for everybody. So you could be some small bit character in a cafe, and the next thing you know, you're, Agent Carter's daughter, and you're
right,
and you're with the new Captain America, and
right.
You're now the power broker. It's like, wait, you were that little kid in that first show, the way back in the. Okay, cool.
Yeah, very cool, very cool.
I love the fact that he does that, but a lot of that, like you said, is because it's a single-minded mentality and one person's pursuit of going, let's really wrap our arms around this and let's make it a big thing all in one. So,
right.
Years from now, people are going to go, I've forgotten how genius he is. Holy cow, Jon Favreau has changed cinematic everything. I mean, the whole lore of
Yeah.
Star Wars and Marvel Universe. He's sort of
Well,
responsible for so much content.
the way that like film school teaches about, directors from, the 50s and the 60s, and the way they talk about Spielberg and the way they talk about, Martin Scorsese. I mean, like 20 years from now, they'll be doing the same thing with Jon Favreau. I mean, like it'll be, look at this guy and how he built an empire off of one movie. He took one and then he made a building block and then another and then another. And then they just kept stacking to this incredible storyline that was just hard to beat.
We're talking about Elf, right?
Right, exactly. He's an angry elf.
He said, I want to make an instant classic. And they were like, okay.
Yeah.
And then he did it. You sort of have to embody the idea of I'm going to put it out there in the universe and we're going to go forward no matter what. And he's done that every step of the way. So all hail Jon Favreau.
and it's like you go and like everything he touches is gold. I memean, you go back as far as like Swingers and Maid. I mean, those were fantastic movies.
Yeah.
And even I don't know if you ever saw he acted and directed in his own little made for Netflix movie called Chef.
I love it.
Had a food truck. Incredible movie. He like everything the guy does. I just can't get enough of.
Well,
it doesn't have to be Marvel. I mean, he's just very good.
And from Chef, like he got to interact with a lot of people that he's friends with, and you see them pop up in projects that he has later.
Right.
So, I mean, he's taken like he took the movie and then now made a TV show on Netflix where he goes around and they make stuff together with different celebrity guests and then has them fold into the projects he's working with as well. And I'm like,
yeah,
this is so cool. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh, that's very smart. Ooh, yes.
Yeah. So Favreau.
Yeah.
Call me.
Yep. We're available.
Yeah.
Yep. We are available.
You need a scumbag bounty hunter? I could be your guy.
Ooh. Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So anyway, switch gears a little bit, but also in the realm of Favreau, The Bad Batch. The Bad Batch has come out with episode 7. We had a lot going on where I hinted to Treadaway that Wrecker kept complaining about his head hurting, and that at some point this inhibitor chip was going to be active, and we get to see that in this episode. I mean, right off the bat, they're hanging out with Sid, and Sid informs them, "Oh, you owe me a lot of money because of all this expense that you have." And they're like, "What expense?" And they don't realize the fact that they're using up a lot of resources because up to now they've worked for the Empire, and then now it's like, oh, you got to pay for fuel, you got to pay for docking fees, you got to pay for ammunition and food, and suddenly it's like, crap, like this is not what we really thought.
Which it's a very minor detail, but it's something that I'm glad they're introducing, because I can remember, growing up, you watching these cartoons or these movies or anything, and all these people are going on these grand missions, but there was always this piece of my mind that was like, they're never eating, they're never like paying for gas, they're never, going to the restroom, like what, like that's part of it. I mean, so like there's not some unlimited supply of fuel that they just get to go back and forth. I mean, that money's got to be coming from somewhere. So it's cool that they've introduced that. It's a super minor detail, but it's very important. Like, there's a reason that they're doing what they're doing, So, but
that's sort of that's sort of the Clerk's argument whenever he's like, think about it. You're working on the Death Star. You're like, cool, I got a nice government job, got some benefits. You might be a plumber on the Death Star. And then all of a sudden comes these Rebel Alliance and they just blow you up, man. They just take you out. And suddenly, it's, you got nothing to do with fighting some kind of organization. You're just like, I got a cool job. You're like, hey, I finally got some great job working on this neat little project. And then somebody comes in and blows you up.
Steady 9 to 5.
Yeah.
And then you're, boom, gone. Yep.
Yeah. So that was the first time I'd heard the argument where it sort of refutes the idea that the rebels were the good guys. And I was like, oh, that is kind of weird. That's like your own perception of if you were on the other side, what would it look like? And it's like,
right.
I guess it didn't turn out so well.
Yeah.
So that sort of folds in, not to get off subject of Bad Batch, but that sort of folds into the idea of if you were a Star Wars character, where would you fall in line? So I asked Dolores that while we were gone to Disney this last time. And she was like, I don't know. I'd probably work for the Empire. And I was like, good benefits. She's like, yeah, you know, she's like, seems like a nice job. I get to wear a cool costume.
Yep. Don't hate it.
So Tredo and I both agreed that Greg would probably work for the Rebel Alliance as well, and he would probably, or for the Empire as well, and he would probably move up in ranks because he's like, listen, these are the facts. This is the job. I'm doing the job. I'm doing it well. I'm in charge now. Like he'd be that kind of guy, and then he'd run into someone from the Rebels, and he'd be like, yeah, I don't agree with all these policies anyway. How about you guys just go ahead and run? You know? Yeah. But
so
if you were in the Star Wars, where do you think you would fall?
Man, that's always tough. I feel like I would be. I've always said, as far as like Jedi go, like I feel like I would be kind of like a Qui-Gon, like right in the middle. Like I feel like there should be a balance between the rules and not the rules. Like there are rules, but there's a living force, and you got to just kind of go with the flow sometimes. And sometimes that doesn't always mean going with the good side, or what Star Wars has portrayed as the good side. And so I feel like I don't know. I guess there's a part of me that feels like I would just kind of be on the mercenary side. Like I would but I would have to do to be alive. Kind of like what's the guy's character in not The Force Awakens, the second one, The Last Jedi, Benicio del Toro's character. He's like a mercenary that he does stuff because he recognizes that like the weapons makers are selling to the Empire or to the First Order and to the Rebel. I mean, like they're selling to everybody. So I don't know. I feel like I'd probably fall in like the bounty hunter mercenary mix, just trying to make it through the galaxy and not really picking a side.
Yeah,
like you said, I mean, there's.
If I were to place you in a scene, I would have you be Kane from Rebels, where you're force sensitive, but you're kind of figuring it out on your own, and you just accidentally end up in a grand mission where you're like, all right, well, I guess I got to accept my fate here because, yeah. I got this.
I feel like I would always try to my conscience would probably take over and be like, well, this feels like it's the right thing to do, so we'll do that.
Yeah,
and I'm cool with being Kane as long as I don't go blind. I would hate that part.
Yeah, but he gains his sight at the very end, so
Yeah.
Plus, he's got some of that sweet Twi'lek action,
Yeah.
Can't be mad at that.
Oh man, no.
Yeah.
She's a pilot. But Bad Batch, So
Bad Batch.
Bad Batch. So but yeah, very very cool. Like as soon as I think it was 2 episodes ago when they were in the factory. Which, by the way, I don't know if you recognize the sisters. They were from the last season of Clone Wars with Ahsoka.
They became friends with Ahsoka. Cool
Yeah, very cool tie because Ahsoka is one of my favorite Jedi ever.
The Mendez sisters.
So that was a very cool tie-in. But Trace as soon as he jumps across to that other panel and hits his head, and he's like, "Oh, I don't feel so good." I'm like, "Well, that's the implant. That's gonna have to come up later."
Well, not only that, but there was early signs of it. I think like episodes 3 and 4, maybe 5. He kept saying stuff about his head hurting, and I was like, "This is going to be a thing." And then they skipped an episode where he didn't talk about it once. And then the very next episode after that, he bunked his head again. He started doing that good soldiers follow orders, kind of thing.
Yeah,
here comes. The big scary guy is going to be big and scary. It's basically like living with the Hulk, and you realize that at any moment the Hulk's going to smash. You're like, oh, God, here comes. But, seeing Rex was cool. I also think
Rex is a great character.
I also think that we saw Ahsoka. I think that they showed us I think they showed us a glimpse of Ahsoka in episode 7. There is a moment where you see a face and you can almost see the highlighted white drawings, the
I do remember what you're talking about. Yeah, I guess in my mind I never even because she's around. So I guess in my mind I'm not really actively looking for her, but I know what scene you're talking about. So that makes sense.
And for a lot of people who haven't seen Rebels or Clone Wars, they're just learning about Ahsoka through Mandalorian because Mandalorian had Baby Yoda. So they're like, who's Ahsoka? Like, what's the big deal about Ahsoka? And if they're now following along with the Bad Batch, they're going to see Ahsoka at some point here. And there's going to be that moment of, holy crap. Like, for the average viewer, they're going to suddenly see this, like you said, someone who's balanced on both the light and dark side, but can hold her own against everybody. I mean, And maybe
because at this point in the Bad Batch, she would kind of be in her like 20-ish area year.
late,
She's kind of
yeah.
getting into because
Well, we're assuming she
she's a
ages
little
like
bit
people.
right. Yeah, exactly. Under the assumption that she ages like a person.
Yeah. Yeah, but maybe she had Rex confront them because they recognize Rex and because they can have a one-on-one dialogue with Rex, and she's not wanting to risk the fact that the inhibitor chip may be a thing. We know that she had she was directly responsible for removing the inhibitor chip from him back before the end of Clone Wars. Was it Clone Wars? Yeah, the last episodes of Clone Wars. She actually helped remove the chip from his brain.
Yeah.
And you know, she had a whole squadron that was loyal to her before Order 66 enacted. And the last thing she wanted to do,
a part of it.
Yeah, he was like her buddy. And so the last thing that she wanted to do was kill him. So she went the extra effort to try and save his life, and it did. So maybe he is doing this, you know, as a loyalty thing of, you know, these guys deserve better. They're all clones,
right?
But he's first generation. He's probably one of the oldest of all of them. He's definitely the most respected of all of them. If anybody comes into contact with him, they immediately know who he is. I mean, he was Obi-Wan's right-hand man for a long time and Anakin's right-hand man for a long time. And there's a fan theory out there that says that the reason that Darth Vader likes to have Boba Fett do his jobs is because it reminds him of Rex because he's a clone and has the same voice.
Oh, that would be cool.
And I was like, that's a little dope.
You know, and Rex is he's a real mainstay because I mean, like he shows up in Rebels, he shows up clone. I mean, like he is. I mean, to be honest with you, it wouldn't surprise me being a clone. They don't age like everyone else.
Yeah.
So you know, he'll probably as long as they're doing cartoons that involve, you know, clones and the Empire, he'll probably keep popping up over and over again. Because he's a great character. I mean, and like you said, he's been a lot of very important characters like main man. So
yeah, he's like
I love.
He's like Ned Stark without the head removal.
Right, exactly. Yeah, still hurts.
I know.
That was one of my favorite characters.
Still a fresh wound.
still hurts.
Yeah,
still hurts. Not to jump away from Star Wars too long, but when that happened, and I'm watching that because I had never read the books, and so you know, in my mind, I'm watching this, and it's a good show, and like that scene's coming up, and I'm like, okay, somebody's gonna swoop in and save the day because you don't kill big name actors like Sean Bean.
Yeah,
and then his head lops off, and I was like, oh. I look at Michelle, and I was like, what happened? Where's the rescue?
Yeah.
Little did I know that I was in for a whirlwind of all of that happening all the time.
Yeah.
yeah.
Like,
so, but
I really dig this Rob Stark guy.
The horror.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
So
the Bad Batch, now Rex is involved. Now they've removed the inhibitor chip from Wrecker before he killed everybody. I mean, just barely.
Yeah.
And Omega the whole time. Now, I feel that Omega is force sensitive. What do you think?
So I go back and forth because there are times when I do feel that way. Because all of a sudden she'll be able to do something, right? So she didn't have the strength to shoot her little bow, and then boom, within just, you know, emotions took over and now she can use it, bang, like nothing. So there are times when I feel that way, but then there are other times where I'm like, well, she's supposed to be a clone and she's created, so can something created be force sensitive? But then I know that the force is in all living things, so clones are a living thing, so could be possible.
She could be a strange anomaly.
And then I start to think, I know it's more in the future, but then I start to think there's a reason that the Empire is trying to, or, you know, the remnants of the Empire were trying to get Baby Yoda in the Mandalorian to get his blood for, you know, what we assume to be try to create force sensitive people with midichlorians. So it would make sense, you know, that she could be force sensitive.
Well, the main reason that I think she's that way is because of her interaction with all the animals in the show. Anytime there's an interaction with some sort of beast, she's the one that walks up to it and can suddenly like understand what's going on. She has,
which is a very Anakin
ability. Yeah,
that's a very Anakin thing to be able to do as well. So that would make sense.
In the Clone Wars, we saw that oftentimes with Yoda or with Obi-Wan, like they would be in a situation with some sort of animal, and one of them would just like somehow connect to the animal, and we
Right.
get that with Yoda whenever The Empire Strikes Back comes out. They're on Endor, and Yoda's explaining to Luke that the Force is in all living things, and that they have a special connection there because of the fact that it's everything on that planet is alive, and that's why Yoda chose to
Right.
go there.
Right. To Dagobah. Yeah.
To Dagobah. Yeah.
So, and gosh, man, that would be because the other thing, not that, I mean, I know it's a big part of the inhibitor chip, but every episode they keep referencing Order 66, Order 66, Order 6. So they're trying to, I think in our minds, keep Jedi relevant, even though like right now, like we know that there are some that are alive and out there that escaped Order 66, but not many. So it would kind of, it'd be kind of neat if she was Force sensitive, because that'd be cool.
So we have the two sisters.
I wonder.
We have
Yeah.
Lace and Rafa, that the Mendez sisters. They have a connection to Ahsoka,
Yeah.
and maybe Ahsoka is now curious because of the clones, because of the fact that they're in Squadron 99 and they're somehow mutated, I guess you'd say.
Right.
And if in the episode 7 they're able to remove the chip from Wrecker, we're to assume that the rest of them went through the process and got theirs removed as well.
Well, you can see in that last scene they all have the little bandage on the side of their head, so they
I
all
didn't
got
see
theirs
that part. I
removed
was
as well.
curious if it was in there.
Yeah. So when he goes over to talk to Omega and like apologize, you can see what's the guy with the tech, the guy with the glasses. You can see him. He's kind of sitting up from the table and he's got his bandage on. And so the only one that I don't think they showed the bandage was Hunter when he walks Rex outside to leave, because he had his bandana on.
He's got his Rambo bandana on, so maybe it's underneath.
Yeah. I love how they gave him like a mullet and a bandana.
Yeah. Well, and it's also weird that I can't really determine the difference between Echo and Tech, because I don't know which one's which. Like at any given moment, I'm like, I don't know.
So Echo is like the pale looking one that's bald and he has the thing on his arm, and Tech is the guy with the glasses. Yeah. So Echo's like the droid modified guy.
He's a lot of droid. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So, but yeah, no, I love the show. I love the direction they take it.
So obviously,
I'm curious to
my
see what
thought
happens.
Is with the inhibitor chip being removed, now you would think that their focus is we got to get Crosshair back.
Right. Exactly. So Crosshair hasn't been around for what, like 2 episodes now, 3 episodes.
Yeah.
So definitely going to start bringing him back, because now the people that are in charge of the shipwreck yard.
Yeah.
At the end of the episode, they're like, "Hey, contact the Empire." Yeah. Right. Contact the Empire. We have them here. So now you assume that at some point Crosshair is going to show up. And we still have the bounty hunter who's out looking for Omega.
Yeah.
So both of those people,
Fennec
I'm sure,
Shand
will show back up. I would assume that they'll probably show up together, and I think somehow they'll probably have the bounty hunter will end up helping against Crosshair. Because he's kind of, I don't know, they're going to have to get real close to him to be able to help him with his inhibitor chip.
Yeah. Well, and Fennec Shand, we know, is around for a long time. Now, here's the crazy part is I read online that the final episode of the season is supposed to be very sad, because the guy who wrote the music, apparently they told him to write something that makes you want to cry. And
oh God.
Yeah. So I don't know what's going to happen, but it's going to be a sad ending.
And I'm a crier too, so that's not.
Yeah,
great.
me too. Yeah. Yeah. I'm like, great.
Yeah.
I'm already tearing up thinking about it.
Yeah. I mean, like, I don't know if you've seen this. There's a TikTok going around of a little kid, and his mom has like shown him all the Marvel movies, and he gets to the end when Iron Man finally dies, and he's like crying his eyes out. I'm like, yeah, same kid, same. Yeah, that was me.
It gets me too, man. Yeah.
Yeah, every time.
Of course, Robert Downey Jr. has been on Joe Rogan now a couple times, and Rogan keeps asking him. He's like, "So you're done with Iron Man?" And he's like, "Yeah, I mean, yeah. And he goes, "So you'll never play it?" He's like, "I mean, if the right project came along," I'm like, "Oh,
there we go."
I mean, if this multiverse of madness comes along, yeah, I'm sure as an actor, part of him is like, I'm sick of playing this role, but also it's really cool role. And if the writing comes along just right, you go, I mean, sure, we'll do it again. Why not? And I'm
Well,
sure
and if
Chris
you're
Evans feels the
RDJ,
same way.
yeah, and if you're RDJ, you have to recognize that, like, while you may not want to continue to play the same role over and over and over again, like, this is the role that got you back in.
Yeah.
Like, you were on the edge of oblivion,
Yeah.
from the acting world, and this is the role that got you back in it. So,
Well, not to
you know,
disparage his role in Gothica, which was a classic in our household.
no, yeah,
I convinced my wife to watch Gothica because I was like, it's a Halle Berry movie. It's got to be great. She's like, oh, that
yeah.
sounds good. She thought it'd be a love story. And next thing you
Oh
know,
no,
it's a terrifying horror film. And she was like,
yeah.
I'm getting up to go to the bathroom. She's like, where are you going? Like she's ironing. And I thought she was going to iron a hole right through the board. She just kept, where are you going? I'm like, I got to pee. Not without me or not. And I was like,
no, you don't.
So, I mean, I think that was the first movie that he'd done that became mainstream before Iron Man. But then, luckily Iron Man came into play. I love the fact that Joey Diaz, real funny comedy guy, he was talking about Robert Downey, and he says, to me, I'm less impressed that he's playing Iron Man, and I'm more impressed the fact that he's a cokehead and he's holding it together. He's like, I know what it's like to be a savage. He's like, the fact that he's on screen and not doing coke. He's like, man, that's some acting.
Oh man,
it's hard not to think about how deep he had gotten at one point and how on the verge of death he was with his addiction, and then to see everything turn around and you're like, oh, but if you also know about Iron Man, like he's the perfect guy to play it because of all of his flaws.
Right, exactly.
A lot of kids don't know, but there's a very dark Iron Man that exists in the Marvel universe, and
right,
they've done a great job of making him a very beloved character, but also showing him to be pretty flawed in the same process, without the really disparaging things.
And that was the other thing, like it always seems like the great movies throughout history, it's like that actor was meant to play that role. And I feel like Marvel nailed that when it came to these main characters. Like, I don't know if there's another person who would have played Tony Stark better than RDJ. Like, I just don't see it. Same with Chris Evans as Captain America. Like, I just don't see someone else playing that role better.
Yep.
I'm sure there could have been.
Well, Anthony Mackie now is being Captain America. I mean, geez, the transformation from Falcon to Captain America, you're like, oh yeah, you're definitely the guy to play it. Like, who else can skate that line of this transition that needs to happen as this character does move on? I mean, even in the Marvel universe, a lot of people don't know that more than one person was Captain America through the years. And they even give a little nod back to Bradley playing him back, during the war when Captain was on ice. And it's like, yeah, all this story needs to be told, but it's a delicate story. And it's also one that you got to believe that the guy behind the shield is going to be the guy. And Anthony Mackie has embodied that from the beginning of being this bigger than life, virtuous kind of guy who's going to make the right decision even in tough times. And even though he doesn't know what to say sometimes, the fact of what he says does have a huge impact and does have the weight of the shoulders of Captain America. And he's not a superhero. He doesn't have any superpowers. He's just the guy.
Yeah. He's just a good dude. Yeah.
He's like the Batman of the Marvel universe. He's got a lot of toys and makes a lot of really good decisions.
Yeah.
I can't believe I just bridged Batman to Anthony. Oh God. Wow.
Yeah.
I think I just stunned myself with that one.
I think Iron Man was intended to be more of the Batman, being the billionaire, but like at the same time, like Anthony Mackie's character kind of embodies that because he's always doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Batman was always doing the right thing as opposed to Iron Man, who was like kind of doing it for selfish reasons because he kind of wanted the attention, like he just was a billionaire that had a lot of cool toys.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're definitely right.
A lot of cool toys. And then at the end of the version where he goes into the, what do you call it? The Nexus, and he sees the grander scheme of the space and everything out there.
Right.
Then he has a burden of responsibility. Like he becomes a different guy. Like everything.
Right. Yeah. It's a huge shift.
Yeah. Up to that point, he's just hey, cool, I'm Iron Man. I can fly around. And I want to go
I
after
can do
these
cool stuff.
guys that did stuff to me, but check it out, guys. Woohoo, we're having
Yeah,
fun.
yes,
Fireworks.
that's right.
And then all of a sudden
That's
he's
right.
like, holy crap, I need to build an army.
Yeah, I've seen some things and
Yeah.
some stuff.
Which is strange because that was the big straining point between him and Pepper, and also the big straining point between him and Captain America. And
Yeah,
then when everything comes full circle, they're like, "Oh crap, he was right all along." It's like,
right. Oh,
uh,
right.
glorious
I hate it.
purpose.
I hate admitting that Tony Stark was right.
Yeah, I saw a
Yeah,
preview yesterday,
yeah.
and I don't know if it's real or if it was a fan created thing, but it showed Iron Man 4 being Tony Stark's daughter, Morgan.
Oh,
Yeah,
I
I
haven't
don't
seen
know.
that, but that
It's
would be cool.
the source I watched it from was like Marvel fan something. So it kind of makes me think that maybe a
Yeah,
fan created it, but it shows
yeah.
Morgan as an adult now and embodying the suit and fighting an intergalactic type battle. And I was just the whole time I was watching it, I was just like, and Doris was like, "What?" I go, "Look at this," and she was like, "Whoa."
That would be cool.
Nobody, but see,
That
but
would
see,
be
here's the
cool.
thing: nobody talked in the thing. It was a lot of like action music and a lot of action going on.
Yeah,
But and I know there's a lot of really talented people out there that maybe somehow computer graphed this thing to be what it looks like. But if it's real, whoa! I mean, talk about step on the gas.
yeah. Well, like I stumble across a lot of that on YouTube with Star Wars. Like people have been creating fan like mini movies for years,
Yeah,
and some of them are so good.
yeah,
And I'll see, I saw one where there was like a random Jedi in the desert like fighting Darth Maul, like just some random
yeah,
battle. But the battle lasted for like 10 minutes, and it was incredible. There was no talking, just a lot of like cool fighting, and I was like, man, this would make a great movie.
yeah.
You know?
Well, and
Um,
also we have Obi-Wan getting ready to come out. Um,
oh man,
he's been
can't
interviewed a few
wait.
times about it, and he says he feels like a little 6-year-old boy playing the part. He said, "I am so excited. This
Yeah,
was so much fun." I guess whenever they filmed the prequels, a lot of it was done with just green screens, and he said it was really depressing to just constantly film in front of the green screens. He goes, "It was cool when you finally saw the final product, but in the process, you're just like, what am I doing?" Whereas this is more
right.
tactile. He's on location a bit, and there's more of a grander feeling. He says, plus I've gone back and immersed myself more into it and understand the storyline a little better. So I mean, I think he went into this project excited to play the role again, which is great.
Yeah, there's a Facebook group that I follow, comic book something or other, and they had some pictures of him, and I kind of geeked out last night. There were some pictures online of him like walking to the set, and he's
Mm-hmm.
got the Obi-Wan kind of long hair, like after Episode 3, and he had the boots on, and you could see, he had like a big jacket on, but you could see the Jedi, the kind of the sand colored pants over the boots, as he's coming out, and I'm just geeking out. I'm like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait. Obi-Wan is just one of the greatest characters in Star Wars lore to me. A lot of people are big fans like Yoda and Anakin, but man, Obi-Wan, he was just, oh yeah. Anytime they bring him back, like when they brought him back in Rebels to have that fight with Maul, I was like, this is one of the greatest scenes ever.
I
You
just
know?
sent you a TikTok, and it has to do with how Obi-Wan was the perfect guy to defeat Maul, and how
Yeah. Oh yeah. When they talk about the stance and how he
yes,
kind of, yes, love that. I
and then in the
love that.
final thing with Rebels where he's facing off against him and he's using he switches to
He's
Qui-Gon
using Qui
stance
Gon's. Yes.
because he knows Maul's gonna think that it's all predictable, and then
Right.
he bests them pretty much the same way he did the first time in it all, and suddenly Maul realizes he's there for the biggest purpose of them all, and he asks him, he's like, is this the one that's going to bring balance? And he said, I hope so. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
holy crap.
Well, and that's the other thing. That's the other thing. Going back to the Bad Batch, like we talk about Jedi that are alive. Like we know right now that Obi-Wan is on Tatooine.
Yeah.
So like they're around, and these guys are bouncing from planet to planet every
Oh,
episode. So
not only that, but Brie Larson is signed on to play Mara Jade.
oh,
They are making her
ooh,
canon. It's on,
nice.
baby. It's on like Donkey Kong.
That's
And she's going to be
awesome.
awesome as Mara Jade. I mean, holy crap.
I'm hoping with this Obi-Wan, it would be kind of neat. I'm not. Where in the timeline is his show supposed to take place? Is it after episode 3, before episode? Like, is he on Tatooine?
Yes. In the
Kind of
beginning,
doing okay.
in the beginning, he's
So
there, but he's supposed to go off planet for a few reasons, and it's all in the efforts of protecting the kids.
yeah. So I'm hoping that we get to see some of what would be a really, even if it were just like a 10-minute clip, I would love to see some, because he's supposed to be in training to, connect to the netherworld. And so to maybe have a scene where he interacts with Qui-Gon and get Liam Neeson to come back as that would be even a 5-minute scene would be worth it. That would be awesome
Well, and
to have those
apparently
two back on screen together.
Liam has greenlit the idea of him coming back to portray Qui-Gon in some sense.
Oh, let's go. God, that was a character I felt was way short-lived. I mean, I understand why they had to, kill him in episode 1, but man,
Yeah.
what a great character.
Yeah.
He's
Well, and there is that question mark of his tie-in to Dooku and Sidious, of the things we didn't see and the dialogues we didn't see, because Dooku basically tells Obi-Wan in, was it episode 2, when Obi-Wan's being held with those little force things with his arms up,
Yeah.
and he tells him, he's like, Qui-Gon and I were understood what's going on and how Sidious is playing us both, and you just don't understand. Like, Dooku was trying to play his part as best he understood it, but he's also being influenced by the dark side enough that he was killing innocent people and stuff like that.
He was power hungry, and
he was power hungry.
But like we talked about earlier, like, Qui-Gon understood that, like, there are 2 sides to every coin. I mean, the Jedi claim to be good, but, like, hold on now, you can't hold all the information and not tell people things.
Yeah,
that's not good.
Yeah.
The great thing
when we finally get, I'm sorry, you just suddenly sparked my imagination. When we finally get to the Ahsoka timeline and the Ahsoka story, it would be a disservice if they didn't have Ventress.
Yes, absolutely.
I mean, because you talk about on the dark side being a bad guy, or whatever you determine as a bad guy. I mean, not that Ahsoka is either light or good. She's sort of middle of the road, but Ventress would probably be her equal in the fact that Ventress at times was extremely dark, but at times would help Ahsoka, because she was like, I need an ally, and even Dooku's after me and I need your help. And Maul was after. I mean, Ventress is a really complex character as well, but you got to have somebody super physical to play that part.
And there's no question.
Yeah.
Yeah. One of the great things that Star Wars has done, and I think even fans have jumped on board with, is, back in the 80s and the 90s, like, cartoons were meant for kids, right? They're meant for children. But now there's so many more things you can do with an animated series that you can't do with a live action film. Yeah. And we saw that in Clone Wars, and we saw that in Rebels, and you can attack so many more storylines by doing that. I would love to see, I'd love it if they took it way, way back when the Sith were actually in power, before they had the rule of 2. I would love to see, like, a prequel to the prequels, where they have, like, a Qui-Gon story where the Jedi are at the height of their power and they lead that up into episode 1. Like, I mean, there's so many things that they could do, but they're doing a good job, like, hitting fun storylines. Like, as soon as they introduced the Bad Batch in the Clone Wars, I think everybody was like, man, these guys would make their own great story. And so, like, all right, hey, cool, let's do that. Let's do a cartoon about the Bad Batch.
And not only that, but fans have spoke out about their love for the Han Solo movie, and now they're working on a Solo 2, which we get to see Kiara come back. And there was a comic apparently that has come out recently that shows Kiara stealing the frozen in carbonite Han Solo from Boba Fett.
Right.
So
I'd love to have a series about Maz Kanata, like how she came to, like, acquire the lightsabers. That would be. But yeah, with the Solo thing, I didn't understand why that movie caught so much backlash. I didn't think it was a terrible movie. I actually thought it was pretty good.
I loved it.
But it did not get received very well.
I think that a lot of fans wanted to see Han Solo pretend he was 20 again, and I was like, he's 70.
Oh, Harrison Ford. Yeah.
He can't.
Yeah,
he can't portray himself as a young man.
He is going to give one more go at Indiana Jones. I guess, like, that's the character that never dies. Jeez,
well,
the guy, he is like 77 years old, going to be playing Indiana Jones.
Well, and he, like, broke his foot when he filmed the last Star Wars movie, whenever he jumped off something and like he broke his ankle in the process. But Harrison Ford has definitely played some of the most iconic roles ever. But this guy playing a young Harrison Ford to me looks like a young Harrison Ford. I mean, he didn't disappoint me
Yeah.
at all. I was super excited to see him.
No.
And,
And you get
the
to see a young Chewbacca. You get to see kind
Lando,
of you get to see the inner workings of the Star Wars universe without force sensitive people. Like you
right.
didn't have to have lightsaber battles. Like you got to see the gritty side.
Yeah.
You know, which
Yeah.
which is very cool.
And Lando, I mean, you get to see their first interactions, the fact that you get to see the inner workings of the Millennium Falcon and why it's so special. Uh,
Shout out.
you get to see the adaptation of L3 basically taking over the brain as being like an AI type guidance system within the Millennium Falcon,
Yep.
which is why they oftentimes have to smack it on the side and go, "Come on, work thing." They're
Yeah.
banging on it and
Would you just come on?
yeah. It's like she's fighting them all the time, going, "I don't want to do this," and then finally going, "Fine, we'll do it."
Yeah.
I like the fact that the Millennium Falcon has a lore on its own, and now you see, oh, it's also got a brain of its own. Like it's its own separate thing altogether. Like as much
Right.
as people will call it a hunk of junk and the fastest hunk of junk, it's like it's a character within itself. It's not just a
Right.
machine.
Well, and arguably even above the Death Star, it is the most iconic ship
Yeah,
in the Star Wars universe. I mean, it is an incredible, you know.
yeah, I
Even
agree.
even people that have never seen Star Wars, they'll see an outline and they're like, "Oh, that's that ship from the Millennium something."
Yeah,
Everybody knows that ship.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
apparently, what's her name? Emily.
Amelia
Uh,
Clark.
Amelia Clark. Yeah, apparently
Yeah,
has been approached about playing Kiara again, and she's like, "Oh, I'm super excited for this. This is gonna be a lot of
yeah,
fun."
yeah,
So,
yeah. She did a great job with that too.
Solo 2 is probably going to happen, and I'm really ecstatic about it. I know that Danny Glover's is it Danny Glover is playing Lando.
Donald Glover.
Donald Glover.
Yeah.
So Donald Glover playing Lando. I've heard that it's going to be a flashback type show where he's doing his Lando Chronicles, which apparently was a book that they came out with, where
Okay.
you see a glimpse of it in Solo when he's like he's like talking to a holodeck thing, and he's like, "Yeah, baby. So then I was thwarting the enemy on so and so, and I did like he's recording himself being this
Right.
grandiose character, but it's
Right.
part of
Right.
the
Right.
character that was him, and so there's a lot of speculation is that an older Lando is going to be on the ship still talking about the glory days, and then they're going to flash back to him playing the character in that scene. So you would got to think that in that process, they're going to have something where he acquires the Millennium Falcon, and there's going to be
Yeah.
something where he befriends L3 and has some sort of weird romance between the robot.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah. Because Lando does not discriminate. Apparently.
right?
He. Yeah.
So it's going to be really cool to see all of this unfold, and as much as a fan as I am, I think that at the end of it, they're not gonna stop. Like there is
No, there's no end.
there's no
There's
end.
no. Well, because there's so many. Once they started doing things like Clone Wars and even Rogue One, which was amazing.
Yeah,
Like once you start doing that, there's no end in sight. Like you could take just any piece from anywhere within the 9 movies and say like, oh, you know what? There's a gap here. We'll do that story to
I mean,
show how we led up to this.
if you go back and watch A New Hope over again, and the opening dialogue with Obi-Wan talking to Luke on the Millennium Falcon, he has just enough information with just enough pauses for each one of his little sentences to be an entire storyline.
I don't know if you've ever seen there's a TikTok where he does that. Like
Yeah,
they piece that together. Alec Guinness is talking, and in between each pause, there's a scene. I mean, it is like it's so powerful. It's
yeah,
like a minute long, but it's so powerful.
yeah.
You know. But yeah, there's so much you could do, and like even just so many side characters to look at.
Uh-huh.
Like how did you know? I don't know. There's no end in sight. There's literally no end.
Yeah. And also with them redoing all this stuff and going over the backstory and with the adaptation of Mandalorian, you have characters within each one of these shows that can be something else as well, like Miggs Mayfield, Bill Burr playing Miggs Mayfield. There's going to
Right.
be a storyline there where you're going to see that play out, and you're going to get to see that character develop. I mean, And again, Favreau never misses an opportunity to go, hey, this guy's important. We're going to see him again. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
who it is.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
we're gonna see Timothy Oliphant at some point in some sort of flash forward or later event where he's going to come back as well. I mean,
Yeah. 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 That was a neat storyline. Um, Speaking of Mando, season 2, you know, I love the show. The show's fantastic, but I will say season 2 to me kind of felt like a video game. Does that make sense? Because it was like every episode was like a different quest he had to do.
yeah.
So it's like, all right, this episode I got to do this. All right, now that one's done. Now I got to go do this. You know, like ultimately, obviously leading up. There's like a main storyline going on, but each episode was like a little side quest that he had to do this and he had to do this, and there's
Well,
this mainstay storyline going on.
and there to me there was still a filler episode with him and the Frog Lady.
Yeah,
I was
yeah,
like, this has nothing
yeah,
to do with anything. Why did you do this? I mean,
yeah. Why is this episode here? Like, but it was kind of. But I mean, it wasn't a bad episode, but it was like, okay.
I mean,
You
if
know.
nothing else, it was a way for them to show off their unusual ability to do things with that theater that they have with the game engine. You know, with all the spider
Right.
coming from all the. I mean, but other than that, are we going to see the Frog Lady again?
Nope.
Was
I don't think
Grogu,
that served any purpose.
was Grogu eating those little things important? I mean, is there something that's supposed to
Right.
happen with that? I don't know.
There was a part of me that felt like that episode was just to show, like, you know, Mando has a humane side, and we have this image of Yoda being this all powerful good being, but Grogu is not that. Like, he is still a child in their species,
Yeah.
and he's not like an all good Jesus like character. Like, he's still a kid. Like, he has kid tendencies.
Yep.
Like eating eggs that he's not supposed to be eating.
I mean, if anything from that episode, the only thing that I got was his interaction with the rebel flight crew whenever they came to help him.
Yeah.
I mean, was that the purpose? Was that the whole
Maybe.
point of the whole episode, was his interaction with them? I don't know.
Yeah, maybe to show that the Rebel Alliance was like alive and well and still, you know, trying to keep peace in the galaxy. Maybe it's to show that, like, that's just, you know, like, hey, this piece of Star Wars hasn't gone away. Like, it's still there.
Yeah.
Could be. Could be. Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, hey, buddy, this has been a lot of fun. I can hear everybody stirring in my kitchen, so I probably need to go in there and say howdy. So anyway,
hey, hi, howdy.
I'm glad we got to hang out because I miss you. I mean, hard hands,
miss you.
You know.
Yay.
But I feel good about it. You feel good about it?
Yeah. Yeah, I feel good about it. Pretty good.
Is there anything I missed? I took notes. So is there anything I missed talking about? I always get done with this and I go, I didn't even talk about that. God, why didn't I talk about that?
Yeah, no, I get that.
Order 66, Ahsoka, Wrecker, Rex, Tesseract, TVA. Yeah, I think that's it.
Oh, nice.
Oh, DB Cooper. Loki.
Yeah, that was so funny.
Loki.
What a great tie-in.
Little Loki flashback to the TVA of him playing DB Cooper.
and I love that he's so embarrassed about it. He's like, I lost a bet to Thor. It is what it is. Okay.
I love the fact that they just had fun with it. They're like, we need a little something here. How can we make this extra silly? And that was funny and silly, and yeah. So
what a great tie in a little small piece of American history. That was fun.
Yeah. All right, that's it. That's all I got.
Awesome. That's great. Had fun.
You got anything to promote?
Well, nothing to promote. You know, right now I'm just kind of in the middle of summer basketball, so we're just we're trucking along. We had 2 days of camp this past week, so 9 games in 2 days. Lost 1, so we had a pretty good showing last couple of days. We got a lot of really good kids coming back. A lot of success last year, so that's kind of all that's really going on around here right now.
Okay.
So
we got to get together, you know.
Yes, let's do that very soon.
Your people call my people. We'll do lunch. You know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I got to get you in here. This is the new thing.
Yeah, I know. Actually, I need to get down to Florence and actually get in the studio. I've never been in the podcast studio.
This is the first time I've had the new camera too. I got not the new camera, the new lens. Amber came over and helped me pick out a new lens for the room here, so that everybody could be in focus and it would look better. Hopefully, people watching it be like, it does look better. I don't know.
I need to make a day of it and like hit all the spots. I need to come do a podcast like in the morning, and we'll hit like King Cafe for lunch, and then do
Ooh.
Tubbs for dinner, and like just do like a big day of incredible food and fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, love it.
All right. Well, everybody, thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this, please remember to rate, review, and subscribe. It does matter. It does show up, and it does help me hopefully get some sponsorship back. I don't know. It's been weird numbers here lately with COVID. It fluctuated up and then down and then up and then down. It's kind of hit or miss, but it's still fun. I'm still doing it. I'm still going to do it, even if nobody listens, because I'm having a good time. Um, if you didn't enjoy the episode, please remember to email 5and40@gmail.com. Greg will be happy to take all of your complaints. He lives for that sort of thing. Just remember to include a Bitcoin so that he'll get to your complaint first, and he'll be on top of it. He's my complaint department. If you enjoyed this though, go to the website Stuff I Heard podcast at anything that you find at stuffiheard.com, and yeah, we'll hang out, we'll interact, we'll do a project together. Who knows? With that being said, cue the cow.
To give me more likes. Give me